Welcome back to the Goalie Corner presented by Stop Goaltending. I'm Coach Michael. Today we have Kevin Linker on, and we are going to be talking gear. More specifically, we're going to be talking about goalie gloves, comparing different brands and models against each other. Why don't we just kind of jump right in it? I think we've highlighted a few brands that some are kind of the top notch stuff and have the market space, and some don't have the market space really, but worthwhile still talking about, right? We got CCM, Bauer, Vaughn, True, and then also Brian's, right? I think what we discussed earlier.
Yeah, Brian's is a fun one. They actually just dropped a new total standalone version of a glove earlier this week, named the Eclipse. And naturally they dropped it on Monday. So
Is that
little
just
solar
marketing?
eclipse. Oh, it's 100% marketing. No one else releases gear on Mondays.
What, Fridays then?
Usually Fridays, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so why don't we just start with that one? Have you even gotten to see that glove yet?
So we actually had in the store, we got sent a demo of it probably mid-February and basically just had it. Couldn't take it out, couldn't use it or anything. But Brian's just let us have it in the store for customers to try on, build the excitement towards it.
And what's the difference with that one compared to, I think they got the optic line, right?
Yep. Yeah. So they've got the optic and the genetic. Optics traditionally more of like a 600 break. This is actually a 580 break. So this is going to be more full hand closure. And kind of just it brings that natural glove when you close it, kind of folds it over on top of itself. They put a little bit of an offset tee in it as well to make it a little bit easier to close. A couple brands are experimenting with that too, just to help kids try to be able to close it a little bit earlier, a little bit
That,
easier.
so I think this is going to be more of a personal question. So the last time I ever bought new gear, I got CCM E-Flex. I want to say twos. Yeah, definitely twos. And CCM was like reinventing the double T because
Hmm.
I used to be a Vaughn kid, so I always came from the double T, and everybody was giving me grief about it, and now it's back and healthy again. But instead of getting the double T, I ended up getting the off center T, and I think it's, in my opinion, one of the ugliest things I could have done to my glove, and I just never really knew what its purpose was.
So kind of personal preference. I love the double T.
Same.
Just a little bit skinnier. I find it makes the pocket feel a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Um, but I also find like it's easier to track pucks. Like you're tracking pucks really well. Don't have that thick bar right in the middle of it. You've got kind of that gap, a little bit of lacing between the two skinnier bars. And I've always been a big fan. Offset tee, we've seen a couple come in from True this year too, where it's got the offset single tee. And those gloves I find feel a lot better right off the rack compared to something that's just a stock single tee, just because it's designed to close a little bit easier just because of the way they placed it. There's not as much going on right in the middle of the glove.
Even if it doesn't matter what break it is.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, I think the only ones I've seen are 590s. So that more like traditional baseball style net.
That's what I had
Um,
too, so that makes sense.
that's been the only one I've seen come with a 590 offset tee.
Yeah.
Um, haven't seen any 600s. I haven't seen a 600 glove in
A while.
like I'm super thankful for it. It's terrible.
Probably since Price played.
Yeah, even like even doing custom orders and stuff, I can't remember the last time I even discussed the option of going 600 break with a customer.
Well, I know we started with Brian's. Let's talk about breaks. How about that? Because then
Yeah,
when we're comparing all these brands, we might have listeners might have a better understanding of what it all means, right? So
yeah,
I'm going to give
absolutely.
everybody kind of the base knowledge because that's all I've got for gear. For my base knowledge, the 580 does better at catching pucks up and around your ear. It was also more
Yes,
designed for puck handling, whether or not that was true or not. The 590 is more traditional baseball catching. It's a hybrid between the two, 585 and 600. And this kind of, I think, and I might ask this in a little bit. I feel like there's more pocket closer to the thumb on the 580, and then on the 600, there's more pocket closer to the fingers. And for me, the 600 is more of a scooping up glove low.
you're all over it there.
That's base knowledge for you. That's hockey
Yeah,
101, I guess. Did I bat that out of the park?
What did you do? Just go back and watch the previous recorded segment and write down everything we said then?
No, honestly, I wish. No, that's just what I've learned from watching, to be honest with you. When I was going through gear and stuff like that, I was too scared to try new things because there wasn't really demo. So I was just watching where people were catching pucks or how they were. And Carey Price famously wore the 600 break, and it looked like everything was he was scooping upwards, right? And then Patrick Waugh, Turco, a few others wore the 580, and they were always coming down with their thumb, catching the puck right close to their thumb. And then the 590 is just you can do either one without hurting either one.
Exactly. 580, you brought up the puck handling aspect. I love it just because of that natural closure. It's super easy to it just naturally wants to wrap around the stick. So definitely like a puck handler stream in that sense. 590 baseball style. Find it's the most like natural feeling glove. If I was going to teach a kid to catch and I want them to actually be able to like catch a ball using their hand eye, I think 590 is probably the most natural fit for them. And then 600, yeah, like I always found it wasn't like a super wide glove. It was usually more narrow. And part of that was just like some of them got a little bit tougher to close just because the way the padding's laid out there. It's a little bit more emphasis on the four other fingers opposite your thumb. I've seen the majority of the goalies that I see that don't catch the puck, like they're just letting it hit it, not actually closing their glove. Usually a 600 goalie, and usually because they can't even close that glove that they're wearing.
Now, is that because the break is like closer to the knuckles, so it's more finger strength rather than hand strength?
It all has to do with finger strength, hand strength. It just feels like it's in a very uncomfortable, weird spot.
Right. So what the breaks actually mean is where the break is on your hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, relatively.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So
like
the 600's kind of if people are watching, right? You can watch on YouTube if you're just listening. But in the middle of from like your first pointer knuckle to your thumb, if you go in the middle, I think that's the most comfortable break when you're trying to
yeah,
catch, right? And then
and
so the
that's your
600 kind of
590.
yeah, and then the 600 kind of flares off to the fingered knuckles themselves. And the
Yeah, I would say
580, I
like
think, curls around the thumb a little bit.
yeah, like 600's more here, I would say, right
Yeah,
across that first set of knuckles where you're, and then like 580, I would say is getting down towards like where you would develop calluses on your hands.
gotcha. Interesting. Well, getting back into the gear then. So the Brian's Eclipse is, I want to say it's probably their first 580, at least maybe stock 580.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's truly, let's just get into comparisons here. What's the difference between the Brian and like a CCM glove?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing you can start with is workmanship. Um, all pro level stuff, all of CCM's pro level stuff is still made overseas. Even the stuff guys in the NHL are wearing, they don't have a retail shop set up in Canada anymore. So it's all made overseas. Brian's is made actually just a couple hours down the road from me here in Windsor, and then they've got a plant in. I want to say they have one in Michigan too. Could just be the one down in Windsor, but in terms of quality, I always find like the Brian's just tends to last a little bit better. It's still hand stitched, which is awesome. So you definitely get a little bit more access to greater detail if we're talking graphics wise. Um,
Just
but
doing an eyeball test, every glove, every brand looks completely different, right?
yeah,
Don't they all have to play within the same sort of rules for pocket size, glove size?
everyone's got to play. Everyone's got that same set of parameters in terms of how big, what size circumference, diameter. I don't know exactly how they measure it down at the NHL offices, but there's definitely limitations. There's no more cheater gloves floating around made by any of the big companies anymore.
Right, yeah. If you don't know what we're referring to, go back and look at a picture of a goalie from the 90s or the 80s even.
Oh man,
Uh,
that cheater bar was such a cheat code on the side of that cuff.
It was probably the best named thing that could have happened,
Yeah.
right? In the goalie world. We're terrible at naming things, right? We got the
Cheater bar. There
panda,
we go.
cheater bar, easy. No, this will get past all the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're looking at Brian's, it looks like the cheater cuff is smaller than Bauer almost. Yeah, I know Bauer's more one piece and
Yeah.
but it are you allowed to like get a shorter cheater bar, not bar, sorry, now you got that stuck in my head. Cheater cuff to
Yeah.
expand fingers or pockets?
Hypothetically, I'm sure you could. I almost think everyone's pretty close to similar though. I just feel like if you take away from that kind of cuff, you're putting a lot more emphasis on catching pucks clean.
Right.
And even like in tight, the best goalies in the world are mainly turning into blocking style goalies on anything. I would say below the hash down, just trying to cover as much as they can without trying to actually catch it. If it ends up in the pocket, unreal, awesome. Otherwise, you're just trying to knock it straight down in front of you, I feel.
Yeah, that's fair. Brian's got how many lines does Brian have now? Two or three?
So with the Eclipse, it's standalone, but they're up to three. So now they've got Optic, which is that 600 break.
Gotcha.
They've got Iconic, which it launched this past fall. That replaced the traditional genetic series. And then you've got the new Iconic as well.
So is the iconic there 590?
I would even say it's probably closer to a 595. It's kind of right between like a 590 and a 600.
Gotcha.
But that is like their glove that falls in line with 590s. Yeah.
So more of a scooping glove. They're trying to
Yeah.
get goalies to scoop it. Okay.
Yeah.
Question off the top of my head. Are you, specifically you, a
Yep.
tube glove or two-piece glove or a one-piece glove kind of person?
Oh man. At this point, one piece. I wore some fawn gloves that I really loved that were two-piece gloves. Two piece is pretty much non-existent at this point.
I
At
know,
the retail level, it's gone. You can get a custom glove. You're probably going to pay a heck of a lot of money for it.
really.
But yeah, I think the only companies that might do it at this point are probably just Fawn.
So why was that? Do you know why that was phased out?
I think it has to do more with like the blocking style because that
More
cuff's always a
structure.
little well more structure. It just provides more integrity to the actual glove, right?
Fair. I love the two-piece. Way easier to
Yeah.
puck handle. And then someone's like, well, what if a puck hits and deflects off? I'm like, well, what if I just caught it?
But what if I just tracked the puck in with my eyes?
What a
Could
weird
work.
concept, eh? What if I don't use the piece of equipment that's, yeah, whatever. All right, moving on. Well, let's go to CCM because they're kind of the market. I don't want to say norm. I think Bauer's more the norm, but CCM's right there with them right now. They've
Man,
got
they existed as the norm for so long though.
it. They've definitely taken a step back, but
Yeah.
it's a matter of time until they kind of hit another resurgence, right? So we're not going to discredit them for sure. They got two lines, right? E-Flex and
Yep.
Premiers. What's the main difference between those two?
So just like from a stock standpoint, I'll just talk stock here.
Yeah.
Um, but essentially, eFlex, they've actually switched it. Axis was 591, eFlex was 581. So pretty much everything from a retail aspect of it, um, made basically no finger stalls, or they've changed it up a little bit. So you get your thumb hole, and then in the 591, the last version of Axis, it was thumb hole, rest of your hand just gets to float freely.
Did they change that? Because
Uh,
last time we talked, it was
yes,
not more of a marketing thing and it didn't go well.
did not go well. This year, I haven't seen any of our offshore Axis XF stuff. Have heard it's gonna, I'm pretty sure it's same as eFlex now, where you go thumb and then index finger loop, pinky loop.
Oh, and then just the kind of,
And then just the two floaters, so that middle finger and the ring finger. And that was exactly what the eFlex glove was this year. That was 581. I honestly felt it. I thought it felt more like a 590 than a 580.
is
Um,
that just because
but
how your
yeah,
hand floats inside?
yeah.
If
it's
it's gonna
tough to make
find the most natural position, right?
for
So
sure.
so is their E-Flex line pretty much solely 580s now on just
Uh,
stock value or just in
that
stock?
that's the way they're going. Yeah, I'm
And
not
then
sure
their
what eFlex 7 is going to be next year. Yeah, whether it has finger stalls, doesn't have finger stalls. But yeah, it's supposed to continue 580, I believe.
and then their Axis, is that going to be more of a 590 or closer to 600?
Access will be 590. Premier Series has always fallen into that 590 break at the stock point. Um, so it'll continue 591 this year with Axis XF.
Do you like kind of pushing everybody into the same sort of glove style? If you're a CCM family and or everybody just gets CCM, let's say they make another resurgence here and take over market. Do you like how their stock is like the same across the board, or would you want to see a little bit of variety within the same model?
I like that I like that it's the same. Their graphics aren't like terribly off kilter, where like if you needed that 581 glove, but you were gonna wear Axis pads, like
Gotcha.
you can find a way to get it pretty close matching wise.
Everything stock is probably like white and black now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair. Okay. And then moving on to Bauer. This is I know I'm wearing a Bauer sweater. Um I don't know
Podcast not
Bauer.
sponsored by Bauer. To make that
Podcast ain't
clear.
sponsored by nothing yet. Let's get that fixed real quick. If you're looking for advertisement, give me a call,
Hey,
please.
retailers, manufacturers, if you need a new ploy, here we go.
We got new tracksuits, but we can get new ones again. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, so I don't know anything about Bauer equipment. I know that they had a mock line and a
Yeah,
super hyperlight, something like that.
yeah,
I know they are the most popular brand, and some goalies it looks phenomenal on them, and some goalies it does not look phenomenal on, right?
yeah. Okay. So let's go but through this quick. Mock resurges this year, turns into Shadow. Honestly, every year, man. Um, when I put this on for the first time, I honestly thought it felt more like ultrasonic, which would have been two iterations ago. But that's that 600 break.
Gotcha.
Everything stock is going to come double T, 600 break, obviously, and then skate lace pocket.
Oh, nice touch.
Yeah. And then Hyperlight 2 was last year, more that 590 feel. Vapor's always been that 590. Nylon pocket, double T, not much else to break down from there. Both have very similar internals in terms of the foam and padding that's in them. Just
I
that
find
variation between breaks.
I find there again, it's first time recording in a while, so I apologize to the listeners that we're kind of bouncing all over the place. I find Bauer more of a game ready kind of
Yeah.
their stock is always game ready, right? And
Yes.
so for the listeners, there's three different types of padding you can get within most gloves, I'd say.
Oh,
CCM and Bauer, maybe.
don't ask True. They've got like six different options this year. It's wild.
We can get into that in a second. So most places offer three varieties. You got a practice palm, which is extra thick. You're probably never going to close that glove in an
No.
ideal world unless you're a junior kid who has Popeye forearms. There is a game ready, which is less padding, but it's easier to close, which means you're going to feel stingers sooner if you're using that for your everyday glove. And then there's a Pro Palm, which is kind of a hybrid between the both. If you're only going to buy one glove, I do recommend getting the Pro Palm. It's going to be a little bit harder to break in, but it's going to help with strengthening your hand and fingers to get that close, but it's going to last longer than a game ready would.
Worth it in the long run for sure.
Yeah. Like in college, my team was buying my gear and they're like, "Do you need two gloves?" I was like, "No, like I'll get one and just get the Pro Palm." And I wore it for 2 years and it was fine.
Yeah.
So highly recommend if that's an option at your age. Is that a stock thing?
Nope. Everything's game ready stock.
Okay, so if you're going to buy a glove and you're wanting to customize, that's when you would make that change then.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. So we've done Bryant's, we've done CCM, we've done Bauer. Let's go to, well, actually, I'll get into that later, maybe, if I remember. Vaughn. Let's get into Vaughn and then we'll finish with True on the gear, the pads, the companies.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Um,
scatterbrained.
okay, so Vaughn this year, SLR4, massive shift this year for them. So SLR3 in the past has generally been 600 break. Normally doesn't sell great at least. So they've shifted it this year. They shifted the Vaughn V10 line last year. So their velocity line they switched to more of that old T5500. That might be right up your alley, but that's what that feels like.
Thanks, man.
And then I got you. And then so SLR 4 this year, two different options on the brake actually. So you've got the 60 degree, which is more that 590 style feeling glove. And then they launched a 70-degree option too, which is more that thumb to hand brake, more like 580-ish.
Now,
So
are they calling it 60 and 70 just to be different?
60 and 70 more just to refer to like the actual closure of it.
So where's the 580 come in?
Well, we've just generalized based off of feel. I know that like there's 70-degree feels
Right.
like a 5.8. It feels as close to a 580 as they're gonna get. And then their 60 feels as close to a 590.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's just the SLR.
That's in the SLR, and then V10 is I would say like T5500. Probably the closest thing to a 600, but it actually feels like okay.
Let's go true.
Love
Just to
true.
recap, SLR 4s totally revamping their glove with essentially a 590 or a 580 break. I always
Yeah.
found them to be a comfortable glove to actually wear. And then the V10 is a absolutely baseball glove.
Yes, for sure. Even by the shaping of it, it looks like an outfielder's glove.
Yeah. So if you want to try that on, just go down to Canadian Tire, try on a baseball glove, and that's what it is.
Pretty much.
All
Add
right,
a little
going
more
on to
padding in there.
yeah, going on to True. Let's quickly talk about how they have six different pockets.
Oh,
Are you,
I think
like, are you talking about like the pro pocket, the
yeah.
practice? They got six different ones of those.
So, oh, it might be five. I might have over exaggerated, but you go game ready extra, oh extra, and practice.
Extra meaning like extra padding. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, so you've got game ready, less game ready, pro, halfway between pro and practice, and then you got your practice glove. Are you confused? I'm confused. Glad we're all confused here.
I don't think it's overly confusing. It's like, okay, like how much am I actually paying more for an extra little piece of leather?
Nada.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, all the same price.
Okay, good job, True. Thank you for making that diverse. When it comes to True, I know I kind of talked myself up with the Bauer side that I didn't know anything. I truly don't know anything about True. I think
I,
one of their
I see
lines is
what you did
called,
there.
yeah, smart. Yeah, I didn't even mean to. Um, I think one of their lines was like 20.2, 12.4.
Oh, you're going so good there. Okay.
That's all I
So
got.
20 turned into hazardous PX4 this year. That is off the shelf. I'm pretty sure everything's a 590 stock wise with them. I haven't seen any stock 9x4 stuff yet.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's a 590 though. And then they've got Catalyst PX3, which is stock 590 as well. And then
What's the
under that, you've
what's the difference with them all?
Graphic.
So
In
nothing
in terms of internals, you're going to get pretty much the exact same thing between Hazardous and Catalyst at this point.
because they're making a push for the stock side of things.
I think they're making a push towards the custom side. I think they're trying to do more custom. So basically, because if you want a 580 from True, you can't go into a retail store and just grab one off the rack unless that stores order them themselves.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, quick plug here. London Sorcerer Sports, we've got stock 580 from True. But other than that, like everything else that comes stock that's made in their factories overseas is all 590.
Quick plug or quick flex on everybody that you have stock
Oh, I
580s.
hey, I mean, I'm sure Hockey Shop is smart enough to do it too.
Oh yeah, we don't need to talk about them. They're a beast.
But
Um,
hey, sourcelondon.com. Check out the goalie gear, guys.
they got everything that Source does and maybe even a better deal. They got Kevin. Kevin's
Oh,
a pretty good dude. All right, so now that we've kind of briefly, if you're still listening, we've kind of briefly gone over everything or all the major companies. Oh, Warrior. Let's talk about Warrior for a minute here. I know it's a nails on chalkboard thing, but do they still have the customization where you can change where the padding is internal? If you know.
don't believe so.
Do you know what I'm talking about though?
No.
So
Actually, yeah, I do. Are you talking like removable palms?
kind of, yeah. But what you could do with them, so take your palm out and there would be a piece of padding somewhere on your palm. You could change that. So if you wanted a practice palm for practice, you could take the padding like, off your fingers and put it on your palm more.
Oh, yeah, no. Definitely
That
not something I've seen anymore.
so that might have been like a 4 year ago thing, but we don't need to talk about the different breaks within Warrior. But I think Warrior it might be the best glove when it comes to a beginner goalie like U13 who's trying to figure it out.
Can't emphasize that enough. Like G6 and even what I've seen from G7 this year, so good.
Yeah.
Skate lace pocket in the junior, but like one of the only gloves I've seen juniors actually pick up off the rack and be like, I can kind of close this, Dad.
Right. And then like the customizations inside the glove themselves, like, it's clear that they wanted their gloves to last long enough for like one or two mini growth spurts because you can, right? Where everything else, it's like, okay, you're either too big for this glove or too small for intermediate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they've done a really good job. Like their junior glove is definitely not overkill.
So
Now
I've,
that jump from junior to intermediate is like it's big.
yeah,
I'm finding a lot of kids coming out of Warrior going into like Bauer GSX,
it's a
which is like
huge
Bauer's.
difference.
Yeah.
Like most of the people I know that have worn Warrior growing up, they stay in Warrior until they're like U15 or U18 because they
Hmm.
can't get the same feel from anything else.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And it's fair enough. That's fine. There's going to be a point where you kind of need to go to these other pads though, because the technology overall is better,
Yes, for sure.
right? So if you're new to goaltending, I would recommend going and buying a Warrior glove over anything else at this time because you can customize it to make it feel more personalized to you. Going not back, but trying to figure out how to podcast again. Starting the wrap up conversation, is there a standalone glove that you think is the premium glove for a U13, U15 mixed aged kid? Or
No,
they're all pretty much similar?
they're all relatively similar. I think if you have the opportunity to go into a store, try stuff on, probably your best bet.
Do you, when someone comes up to you in the store, do you ever ask, like, what's your playing style like?
Not really. I go like, what are you wearing right now? You like what you're wearing right now?
Get
Um,
them in the door, get them out the door?
Not necessarily. I mean, most kids like if they've worn something in the past, they know whether they like it or not. And once you know if they like that or not, you know kind of because they're either in a 590 or a 600 right now,
That's a big difference.
right? So once you go like you're in a 590, do you like your 590? Okay, so here's what's on the market that are 590s right now, different brands. Do you not like your 590? So let's look at 600. Here's what your options are.
Right. Only reason why I asked is because one time I was going to like to go try on pads and not buy anything new. Strict orders from the old man. We're not buying
You
anything. We're just going to look.
you bought something, didn't you?
I didn't buy it. I was only like 13, so I didn't have any money. But as soon as we walked in the door, guy came up to us and goes, "What's your playing style? Are you blocking goalie or?" athletic goalie essentially, right? We were only
Yeah.
comparing Reebok to Vaughn, right? So it was pretty easy to change that. But then he would ask about, can I catch the puck easy or is it kind of bouncing out, right? And he was able to talk to me about gloves. This was, how old am I? This was 17 years ago, right? So it's a while
Man,
ago.
you are
Thanks.
old.
30 this year, man.
Oh,
It feels like I'm past the hill, like it's long gone. But I'm
I
here.
feel you.
Thanks. How old are you? 24?
I'll be 24 end of the year.
I tried lowballing too. Yeah, good for you. But so when someone's going on to look at gloves, obviously comfort's a thing, but they're all going to feel comfortable because they're all new pad,
They're all new.
hone it right. What do you think is important for the average goalie going to buy a glove to have like a checklist? If not the goalie, the parents.
I think like that's so tough because everything is made, if we're talking like intermediate gloves, everything's made relatively in the same area. And hint, not in Canada. So, um, yeah, like quality, durability, it's all going to be relatively the same. Likely you're going to grow out of that glove before the glove fully breaks down on you, which is always nice.
So are you going at
I
it thinking of like what's a resale potential of this glove?
You could do that, but honestly, like even though like everything, like I could give you four different 590s, and you might look at them, try them all on, and say, okay, I have four 590s on my hand. They all feel different.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's narrow it down. What 590 feels best? What do you feel the best about?
Would you recommend someone trying it on with like a chest protector? Or is that kind of
You,
meh?
uh, I don't think like that's a big deal. The majority of them, they're all cut off at the wrist anyway, so try and minimize that interference.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a me thing then. Um, I'll own that. And then sizes of gloves, right? So you got the junior,
hmm
intermediate, and then senior or pro?
Senior, senior.
Senior. Pro is just based on the workmanship and where it's coming from, essentially, right? I know that there's sizing charts online if you didn't know of like hand size to relevance of hockey gear. So if you're wondering if they're still a junior or should you go buy an intermediate glove, there's charts online. Would you recommend that eager parent that wants their kid to be big to get into an intermediate knowing that their kid's not going to close that glove? You would
No,
rather have a little bit smaller equipment so they have more control over it.
I'd rather it could be able to catch a puck than straight block it.
Fair?
For me, like it's a control thing.
Yeah.
I get that you want the kid to look big, but there's a huge difference between looking big and actually being able to catch and control a puck. So
And puck handle. Fair.
for
Awesome.
sure,
Is there anything
glove is usually the last one that goes.
for
Like in
sizing?
terms of yeah,
It's the hardest. You can get a
yes,
big blocker and you'll be
hmm
fine. It'll be heavier, but you'll be fine because you're not really
ab
doing anything with it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think we missed anything?
Let's go quick break in here. Okay, so breaking in a glove. Um, if you have access to it, skate oven,
Really?
put it in that skate oven for 6, 7 minutes, and then put like a softball on it, something that's going to make the pocket stay a little bit bigger. Wrap it shut.
Okay.
From there, just kind of playing with it. You can repeat that process 2, 3 times.
Okay.
Um, if you take a hot shower, generate a lot of steam in that room. Don't bring the glove into the shower with you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Don't hear me out on this. Do not take the glove into the shower. But if you're gonna have steam in that room, bring the glove into the room with you. It's gonna because it'll emulate a sweat session, and all of a
Oh,
sudden, if you play with it right away, now
it's
you're
looser.
immune. It's looser. It's gonna be easier to close, and you can start creating that crease within the break angle.
Interesting.
But yeah, like tying it shut, keeping it tied shut. Um, I would keep it tied shut for like 4 or 5 hours at a time,
Yeah.
and then just like constantly playing with it.
For me, the best way to break in a glove, sit and watch TV and open, squeeze it or open and close
hmm
it because you're not only breaking in the glove and forming the padding around your fingers, you're actually strengthening your hand itself,
You're
right?
getting yourself one step closer to Connor Bedard's forearms. I'll give you that.
Yeah, right. So that's my tried and true method. I had a goalie partner. This was so funny. I think I knew him for like 3 years, never bought new gear, finally showed up to the rink one day with a brand new glove. It was a 6 a.m. practice. He hated it because he couldn't close it. There was no flap to it. It's picked up, and as I'm leaving, I'm watching. His dad's driving over his glove. They closed it, backed over it, and then they opened it and drove over it again. And it was the floppiest glove I've ever seen in my life. And I'm sitting there like, good on you, man. That's crazy.
Uh, Pro tip, don't do that.
Thank you. Also,
Yeah,
pro tip, this is a pet peeve of mine. I wish I had a glove with me. Don't push the tee down
no.
into the pocket. That's breaking the glove, right? So if
Hmm.
you're trying to get the glove on more, push behind the tee, push the palm in, push from within the pocket. Don't push the tee. So, all right. I think we're good.
I think so.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. I'm not good at plugging anything yet, so you can find all my social medias at wherever you found this podcast. And see you next week.